So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Bhakti Sadan, ISKCON Seshadripuram, Rajarajeshwari Nagar Bhakti Sadan chapter. We will continue with srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are in chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Today we will be doing verse 23 and 24. Verse number 23. Gata sangasya muktasya jnana vasita chetasaha jnanaya charatah karma samagram praviliyate. Gata sangasya, of one unattached to the modes of material nature. Muktasya, of the liberated. Jnana avastita, situated in transcendence. Chetasaha, whose wisdom. Jnanaya, for the sake of jnana. Yajnaya, for the sake of Krishna. Acharat, acting. Karma, work. Samagram, in total. Praviliyate, merges entirely. Translation: the work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge. I think looks like I was not sharing. Translation: the work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Purport: becoming fully Krishna conscious, one is freed from all dualities and thus is free from the contaminations of the material modes. He can become liberated because he knows his constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is the primeval Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices because sacrifice aims at satisfying the Supreme Person, Vishnu Krishna. The resultant reactions of all such work certainly merge into transcendence, and one does not suffer material effects. We will continue to the next one. Verse 24, 4th chapter. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma, spiritual in nature. Arpanam, contribution. Brahma, the supreme. Havihi, butter. Brahma, spiritual. Agnav, in the fire of consummation. Brahmana, by the spirit soul. Hutam, offered. Brahma, spiritual kingdom. Eva, certainly. Tena, by him. Gantavyam, to be reached. Brahma, spiritual. Karma, in activities. Samadhina, by complete absorption. Translation: a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere. And yet, he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curds. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yajna or activities, sacrifices, simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahma, Brahman, means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyotir. His spiritual effulgence, everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyotir, but when the Jyotir is converted by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material wheel can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor and the results are all combined together Brahman or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything become one in the absolute, the supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vranda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vranda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very wonderful verse, very beautiful verse. Prabhupada has given such wonderful commentary on this. Haribol, where's my phone? Okay, so Prabhupada has given such wonderful commentary on this particular verse. You know, every word is actually very deep. If you really try to understand, actually, we can understand the entire Krishna conscious philosophy. And Prabhupada in his commentary and then even in his lectures, he has very beautifully explained this. So I will try, whatever, to the extent whatever I can try and communicate this verse as however I observed from Srila Prabhupada's writings as well as from his classes. So let's just read the verse once again, the translation. So verse 23, something which we covered in a sense last week, is just an elaboration of that. the work of a man who is unattached to the mode of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Says, so we have understood when someone is actually working fully for Krishna, then he is actually above the three modes of material nature and his activities are all completely akarma, right? He is no more in the status of dualities. And he is actually situated in this constitutional position. We discussed this. Basically, one is situated in this platform, he can actually perform any work. There is nothing which binds him, right? He can do whatever activity for Krishna, and that is transcendental, and it is not binding him for any material situation. And whatever prescribed duties are there for someone who's in the practicing field, right? One who's come to that perfection, then for him, actually, everything is actually Krishna consciousness. So whatever activity he does in that consciousness, not in his, material consciousness or in the sense gratificatory mode. So that's been discussed there. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is the primeval Vishnu. Primeval Vishnu means who is the source of Vishnu. So sometimes, we have discussed this also many times. I will not go into it. Sometimes we think, Mahavishnu is from whom everything emanates. But that is true from the creation point of view. But beyond the creation, there is the spiritual world which is permanently existing. And there is a personality called Krishna, and from whom emanates many further tattvas, or rather expansions, Vishnu tattvas, and in that order comes Mahavishnu, and that is particularly for this particular material creation that he is, that particular universe in which he is, he is predominating. So that's why it's mentioned primeval Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices, because sacrifices aims at satisfying the Supreme Person. We have discussed this in the initial verses. Yajna means satisfaction of Vishnu or Indra, and normally here in the context it's always Vishnu or Narayana. So it's to satisfy him. So if your activities are to satisfy him, that activity also is only yajna. It's not like you sit in a homa kunda and then offer the thing. Yes, that is also yajna. But whatever this person is doing for the satisfaction of Krishna, that is also yajna. The resultant reaction to all such work certainly merge into transcendence. And one does not suffer from material effects. That's the point. Merges into transcendental. Transcendence means what? That activity is not in material platform. That is in the transcendental platform. That means that action is something like performed in the spiritual world. What does that mean? That means that does not create reaction for the performer. So he may be situated in this material world, sitting and doing things like how we are doing. We may think, oh, the person is doing the same thing, what's so great about it? But his activities are completely for Krishna, while ours are completely, or at least, partially for ourselves. And therefore, there's a big difference. Ours get material reactions, karma cycle is actually therefore embedded in our action. But that person's action is completely devoid of karma, and it is situated in the spiritual plane. We'll go to the next verse. So the next verse, we'll just do the translation. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution in spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So what is mentioned here is the person who is doing this activity, for sure, after this body, right now he's in this material world, but after this leaving this body, he is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom. He's already experiencing life in spiritual world, sitting in this material world. And then maybe, because we are still in the material world, the body will one day perish. But at that point in time, the other person will come back, go into the womb of another mother. It could be whatever mother, it could be an animal mother, it could be a human mother, it could be a demigod mother, whatever mother, we go and take birth there. But again, the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease comes. But for this person, he reaches the eternal state of consciousness. That means in his permanent constitutional position, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is the same of the spiritual nature. We will discuss this a little more elaborately. This is also in a way, this verse Prabhupada also uses to actually explain the difference between impersonalism and personalism. Very beautiful actually. You have to listen 100 times to get something into it. That's how it was Prabhupada's class. It's just a 30-minute class, but very, very powerful. So I will try to again, share whatever I could remember from whatever went in my head. See, there is one verse in, I think, Vishnu Puran. It says, Eko sthane stita agne. Eko sthane stita agne. So this is very simple, right? Eko means one, sthane means place, stita means situated, agne means agni, fire. Now, that fire is situated in one place. But what happens? When the fire is situated in one place, but still far away, very far away, you can experience minimum two things, sometimes three things. One is you can see the what do you call the smoke, right? From the fire, you see smoke sometimes, right? That is first one. The second one is from that fire you can see light. It emanates light. The fire emanates light. And the third one is it emanates heat. So wherever fire is there, light and heat, sometimes smoke is also seen there. Now you need to understand, but this fire is sthane sthita, it is situated in one place, but the energy of that fire can be felt further away. That means the light as well as the heat and the smoke as well can be experienced further away. Now this is the point that we need to understand. Now the Lord is like that. The Mayavadis have a different version of it. That means, see, the Lord is there, just like the fire is there, but his energies are there elsewhere. The energy and the energetic are both the same, right? The energetic cannot be there without energy. Can you ever say energy is there, but there is no, the one who possesses that energy is not there? For example, now my voice is there. My voice is the energy. Everybody can hear that. It is coming into everybody's home, actually. But where is it emanating from? The source of that voice is coming from me here. And this is something which we need to understand. Vaishnavism is to understand this concept of the Lord or God is a person. And from him emanates the energy. And that energy is actually also part and parcel of him. It is not that the energy is something bad. No. The energy is as good as him. Now, in this concept, what happens is some people have this wrong misconception that the person is actually they give the same example, right? It is pervading everywhere, right? That light and heat is pervading everywhere, and therefore the Lord is actually spread everywhere, and there's nothing called the original place where the fire is coming from. Again, give another example. For example, if you have a piece of paper, now if you have to tear that paper into small innumerable pieces and you put it across, then where is the original thing? It is not there. So that means that paper is not got spread across all the things. So this is what the Mayavadis think. That means that supreme power is actually spread across, and that therefore there is nothing called a original power there. It is spread everywhere. There is nothing called a original power sitting somewhere. But this one we need to understand. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. It is there in one of the verses. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. That means Purnasya Purnamadaya. That means from the whole, from the complete, a complete thing comes out. Right? From the complete, a complete comes out. Now something has come out, right? Then from whatever it came, that has to be incomplete, right? That means you have taken out something from that, and therefore there should be something less in that place. But that is not how it is. Purnasya Purnam Madaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. That means the original still remains Purna. So this is something which is which the Mayavadis are not able to understand. They think that paper is torn into different pieces, though it's spread all over. So I am, also that energy, right? We talk about there is nothing which is relating to anybody. Everything in either this material world, spiritual world, everything actually is owned by the Lord, and therefore that Lord is actually spread across. Therefore, I am also Lord, you are also Lord, and then there's now nobody called a separate Lord. That's all is broken into different pieces, and that is there, and everything is God. That's the kind of thinking. But here the fact remains, it's like the source of light always remains, but the energy of that light which can spread all over, and that is seen everywhere. And that's, in fact, we are also the living beings, the Bhuta, the Sarva Bhutana, many places Bhagavad Gita has mentioned. All the living entities, they are all also part of this energy. And that is divided into what you call inferior energy and superior energy. But they are also, in one sense, spiritual. Just like if you say, like that fire is coming, from that fire, there is the smoke. The smoke is actually compared to this material energy. It is sort of covers, right? The smoke covers the source of fire. And therefore, we think, there is no fire behind it. But that's the material conception. That means we are under an illusion that, there is nothing behind it. But that's the material world. But the fire and the heat, they are actually completely that pure spiritual energy of the Lord. So all the creations are also spiritual energy of the Lord. And we need to understand this. Now there is in Brahma Samhita, there is another verse, Advaita Achyutam Anadi Ananta Rupam Adyam Puranam Purusham Navayavvanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktau. That goes on like that. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaita Achyuta Anantam Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navva Yavanam Cha. So Advaita, that means he is like, there is no second person to him. That means he is the absolute topmost person. Achyuta means one who's not fallen down. That means there is nothing which is subtracted from him. He is always in that pure platform. Ananta Rupam, that means he is actually endless. That means Rupam means personality, that means form. But that form is endless. That Ananta Rupam, Adyam Puranam, that means this one is actually very old, and it is Adyam Purana Purusham. That means this is the beginningless, and at the same time Anadi also is there. So he is beginningless, but at the same time it is also old, beginningless or old, whichever you call it. Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yavvanam Cha. If it is old, how can it be young? Nava Yavvanam. Yavvanam means youthful. That means it's like, pristine youth, blooming youth, however you call, right? The flowers, blooming flowers, when you say, they are full of, that freshness. So Nava Yavvanam Cha. So this is the Supreme Lord. Even though his energies are spread all over the world, but he retains his originality. There are many, many verses which are there to talk about this. It is also mentioned in one of the things. He is so perfect and complete that even if complete is taken away from complete, he is still complete. So this is the point. There is also another example. His thing keeps on expanding. Okay, now for example, if I have say $1,000, now if you take away some $500, what remains is only 500. This is material understanding. If I say no, I still have $1,000, you will say you do not know mathematics, right? You had, come on, let's say an answer. You had 1,000, I took away 500, and now how much is there? No, 1,000 is there. No, there was one film, I think one Tamil film where this was there long time back. So like that, this fellow will keep on saying, no, it is, something like that. But actually, in material world, it will be laughed at. But in reality, this is like this. 1 plus 1 in material world is equal to 2. In spiritual world, 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. Okay, that's fine. Now, let's say 1 minus 1, what it is. In material world, you will say minus 1. But in spiritual world, it still remains 1. So, this is spiritual mathematics. This is very clearly given. We need to understand a little further. Yes, this is energy. We are, what do we call? We, the living entities. the Sarva Bhutanam, all the living entities, we are also spiritual, we are spiritual, but then qualitatively we are same, but quantitatively we are different. Now that example is there, you take a drop of water, that drop of water and, a ocean, from there if you take water, this drop of water you took from elsewhere to what is there in the ocean, the properties will still be the same, H2O, whatever. But the capability of this drop of water versus that ocean is completely different. This is something which Vaishnavas very clearly understand. That means this particular entity, who's the Sarva part of the Sarva Bhutanam, all the living entities, is actually spiritual. We agree to that point, that everything is God. Yes, you are also Brahman in one sense, but you are limited Brahman. But that other one is the ocean. Same quality, but that is ocean. But these other fellows, the Mayavadi's way of thinking is, when you take that drop of water, it is separated, but when you put it back, it becomes part of the same whole. But that's not the concept what Vaishnavas look at. So that's this is actually a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a right balance between both this, either to be the completely on the other side to say no, these are two different, but on the other side saying no, this is all one, right? These two. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a thing which is Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. Beda means difference. Abeda means no difference. Tattva means we know that is the truth. Now Achintya means inconceivable. So let's not go to both extremes. It's actually one and the same at the same time. Arey, you are just giving a formula to marry both these extremes. But how is it possible? The answer is Achintya. It is inconceivable, but it is possible because that is not material world. That's the point we need to understand. This is this is not without basis. It is not said just because Krishna says it. It's not that the Vaishnavas are saying, creating their own formula or their own theory. Then it is not tattva. Krishna says in many places, he says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtinaha matsani sarva bhutani na cha aham teshvi avastitaha. Now this is there in Bhagavad Gita. Maya tatamidam sarvam. That means everything emanates from me. Everything emanates from me. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtinaha, in the unmanifested form. Right? Everything emanates, this material world, everything emanates from me and from my unmanifested form. Matstani sarva bhutani na cha aham teshvi avastitaha. That means from me comes all these beings. Mat stani. That means they are all situated in me. Stani means stane stitaha. That means you remain there. So mat means me. From me, all these sarva bhutani are coming. Mat stani sarva bhutani. But na cha aham teshvi avastitaha. But I am not in them. What is the meaning of that? I am not in them. Everything comes from me. I am not in them means he's saying, I am the source of everything, but I am not in them means that you cannot then therefore call everything as Brahman in that sense, because he is separate, aloof elsewhere. I am not in you. Everything is in me, but I am not in you. In the you means the Sarva Bhuta, all the living entities. I am elsewhere, separately seated. I have a nice place. I have nice friends. I have nice activities. I have so many nice, wonderful pastimes to perform, and I am enjoying life, Baba. You just take this example, the king, right? A king is there, but if you see, the king pervades to the entire kingdom. It is not that he is physically present. The king's energy is spread everywhere. You pay your taxes to the government. It is actually under the authority of the king, right? It's not that the king physically is going to be there, but it is his power which is there. Under the name of the king, all the laws are enacted. And he is the original energy for that particular kingdom. Beyond that kingdom, it's a different story. But within that kingdom, there are so many representatives of that king And he is the supreme commander of that particular thing. This is something which we need to understand, not to be completely foolish to think, everything is coming from nothing. Yeah. Even a simple road traffic cannot run without, signals, traffic signals, and, those kind of rules and regulations. But we think the entire universe is also perfectly functioning for millions of years, right? How can that be? Everything is perfectly going around the sun in a wonderful orbit, and how it's like, millions of years they are going. And, I have heard this earth, if it is just little closer to the sun, we are not alive. If it is little further away from sun, we are not alive. It has to be in a perfect position. And you can't say it happened by chance. Like, there are thousands and thousands of planets, and there are thousands and thousands of living beings and different planetary systems. And everywhere, everything is so beautifully arranged. It is perfect intelligence. And from that, only complete can come, But at the same time, that complete remains complete, not that it has lost something because of this. Now it's also mentioned, there is also another verse which says, Ishvaraha sarva bhutam hrideshu arjuna tishtati. That means he's saying, I am sitting in everyone's heart. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam. Ishvara means the Supreme Lord. Sarva bhutanam means in every living entity. Hrideshu, Hrida means heart. Hrideshu, Arjuna, O Arjuna, tishtati, he is situated. That means the Supreme Lord, Krishna is saying, it is a verse from Bhagavad Gita. He is saying, I am situated in everyone's heart. Now, it's a little contradicting, right? Earlier verse you are saying, everything is in me, but I am not in anything. But here you are saying, he is sitting in everyone's heart. Yes, he is sitting in everyone's heart, but he is still aloof. He is away elsewhere. He is having a representative of him sitting in your heart, and that is why he knows everything that is happening in this whole world. Even though he is aloof, sitting somewhere else, it's like, he has planted a, what do you call, sometimes, your phones are there. Some people put some bug in the phone so that, they can know what's happening. They are sitting elsewhere. But how do you know what did I say? Because I have put some bug in my earphone so that, I know what's happening in your conversation, like that. Now, the Lord is sitting in everyone's heart, not directly, but through a representation called this Paramatma. So, the Paramatma, even you don't have to tell anything. Whatever is your desire, he is sitting there. In your heart, you are sitting there. This is a body which is a machine. It says, Yantra Rudani Maya. Krishna uses this word. This body is Yantra Ruda. It is Yantra. That means it's a machine. And there is a one soul which is sitting inside this machine driving this. Now this yantra, inside that yantra you are sitting as the soul, and next to you is sitting that super soul or the Paramatma, and he is already knowing whatever is the soul. His friend is actually desiring, thinking, wanting to do everything. What are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, what does he desire to do, what did he do in the previous body, and therefore what is he trying to do in this body. Everything he knows. He is sitting there. But at the same time, whoever you call Ishwaraha, the Supreme Lord, he is sitting elsewhere, separately, enjoying life. You will never see Krishna doing any activity per se. He is always either having a flute, singing nicely, dancing with the gopis, or, playing some pastimes with the, gopis, stealing butter, doing whatever. You will never see Krishna palpitating, this planet is supposing, going like that, that is going like that. How do I actually balance this, You will never see Krishna in that format. You see any other demigod, he will be actually in some kind of activity. But Krishna is always enjoying life. Like, that's because the Supreme Lord has nothing to do. But at the same time, everything is actually working under his direction. And he has millions and trillions of servants who are all taking care. We are also part of that servant community. And we are executing some actions for him. And he is guiding us, sitting in our heart, not directly, but through a representative of his one manifestation of him, because he can manifest into millions and trillions, but at the same time retain his own individual existence, and that is the Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. So that's there. Now, now we will come little further down into this verse, because little, when you come to this, you will understand. Now it is mentioned, This is actually the state of a person who understands this perfectly, right? A person who understands this perfectly, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is there. And my job is simply to be the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is situated in the highest platform. That means who's acting also in that platform, he is situated in the highest platform. But one who is not in that situation, but he needs to get there, then there are a lot of aspects given, which is what will be coming in the next verses. Prabhupada mentions that also. The sacrifices, various sacrifices are there, and they have been also specified also. Like it will be said, so and so will do meditation, so and so will, keep celibacy, so and so will do this, that, and all of that. That's all there. But now the point we need to understand is, um, uh, um, okay. So now, so one who's not at that level, then he has to do so many other things. But one who is able to actually understand this, for him, he's reached that perfect state, because we have seen that the spiritual realization are on three different levels. We discussed this. I will not go into the elaboration, but we know that, right? One is the Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti. That is there in Srimad Bhagavatam also. Brahmeti, what is being talked about? Brahma, Brahman, 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 everything. It emanates everywhere, right? Is there, God is here, there, everywhere. Why do you go to a temple? He is here, there itself. You do this activity, that is also God. You do this work, that is also God. You do your art perfectly, that is also God. So you do your work perfectly, that is also God. You see God everywhere, Brahmeti. This is one level of understanding. I mean, mostly people fall under that category, right? And the Mayavadis also fall under this category. Then the Paramatmeti, the yogis, it's mentioned. This is all from whatever I'm saying is actually Prabhupada quotes for each one of them. The verses which actually talks about that. So he says the Brahmeti is all these impersonalists, who do not want to identify with one person, or not one. It's not about one person or two person. It's about identifying with the original tattva. But somehow they don't want to do it, because they say, right, this Brahmati say, I am also God, you are also God, everything is God, so be it. So they are not able to know who is this God, and therefore for them they understand God at this level, which is also fine, right? Because that's also the energy of the Supreme. Energetic and the energy are all the same. In that sense it's okay. So this is basically the impersonalist who can only go up to the Brahma Jyoti. That is the where they think from where everything is emanating, that power void, or whatever you call that, right? That is the Brahma Jyoti, or the light from where everything is actually there. So they call it Brahma Jyoti. So this is impersonalist. Then the yogi, one who's actually, yogi means one who tries to connect, right? Yoga means to connect. Yogi tries to connect to the Lord inside the heart. That's why you say they are supposed to meditate. Today yoga fellows say, you sit and don't think, you keep your mind blank. Sit like that, they say. Some of them, I have heard them say this. But then that is not yogasana. Yoga means to connect. To connect means you have to meditate on Vishnu. That is what is the original yoga system. So yogis try to meditate on Krishna or Vishnu or Paramatma in your heart, and they are actually able to see that Lord inside their heart. And they are the second stage. That means they are the Paramatma realized persons. So they can see the Lord inside. Maybe they can see as Brahmeti also. They can see inside, but that is limited in one sense, because that Paramatma is available only in the material world. If you transfer yourself to the spiritual world, Paramatma feature is not there. Because the original is sitting there. Why will you have a representative here like that? Not necessary. The original is there. So here it is just a representative as Paramatma sitting in our heart. Then the third fellow is the Bhagavaneti. That means one who realizes that Lord at that level of Krishna or Vishnu, one who is actually the original power source from which everything emanates. Once you are in that state, there is nothing more you need to know. That's all. Done. Over. Chapter over. It's about, okay, this is theory. But actually, how do you realize this? That's the journey of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada mentions this. This is Krishna consciousness. Just to go in this journey. But Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, this verse, right, I used to quote often. which is Vasudevaha Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. That means Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante Vasudevaha Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. That means Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many births, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante. One becomes intelligent enough to know what? Mam, me. Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante. What does he know? Vasudevaha Sarvam Iti. That Supreme Krishna, Vasudeva, is none other than Krishna. Vasudevaha Sarvam Iti. He is everything. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. Such a person is very rare to see. That means there are a few who will come to this understanding and will be happy in that understanding. They are completely peacefully situated. There is the Supreme Lord. I am his eternal servant, and my constitutional position is to serve him, and I am very peaceful. Now everything is. Otherwise, you think everything is running in your head. No, nothing is running in my head. I am simply a servant. Everything is running in my boss's head. I am simply executing his orders. No, you are completely peaceful. But if you are the owner of the business, if you think you are the owner of the business, you go mad, right? You work 24/7. If you are a worker, you will say, sir, 5:30 it has happened, right? Because it's not running in your head in that sense, not in the attitude, right? You don't really worry. It's all the Lord is taking care. He is in control, unlike the material bosses who are not in control of things, therefore so much anxiety. But the Lord is in control, and I am a servant executing what He is telling me to do. There's nothing for me to fear, favor, nothing. I am simply enjoying life. That's how the realized persons are. But one who's in other categories, they have a problem a little bit, they need to go further up. Now for that, how to go through these realizations, it's all been given, so many austerities and all that is given. Now Krishna says, Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. Basic level of that is, Rasoham means the water, the taste of water, Apsu. Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. I am the taste of water, O Arjuna. What is he trying to say is, if you cannot relate to me as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then surrender unto me, which is, the case everywhere. People, why Krishna, why not this demigod, why not that demigod, or why not that other religion which says so and so is God, Yeah, we can go on in this trip till the cows come home. But one who comes to this understanding, yes, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then, I am simply situated in that state, it's fine. But majority will not be coming to that conclusion. Therefore, Krishna says, Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. That means, it's like, the beginners, how do you try to understand that, that water I am drinking. No, you don't know the complete details about Krishna, but you understand God is everywhere. Okay, fine. God is everywhere, right? Then how do you relate to that God? Our objective is to relate to that God. That's Krishna consciousness. How do you relate to that God? I relate to that God by when I drink that water. Krishna says, the taste of water is me, he says. Therefore, when you drink water, if you can think, oh, Krishna, I'm tasting you, I'm tasting, in a way, Krishna, I'm experiencing Krishna. If you are able to think, gradually that consciousness will develop, that from Brahmayati you will, maybe go to Paramatmati, or you may go to Bhagavaniti, or you can directly jump to Bhagavaniti. But the point is, those who are completely not having any spiritual consciousness, they can start from there, that Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. That's a very basic thing. But one who actually understands the full concept of, yes, I understand Krishna, and I understand his nature, I understand about his devotees, or I am clear with certain things, but there are so many other things I need to know, that's fine. For him, how does he progress? Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. It goes on up to that. Vandanam and Atma Nivedanam. That's what we are supposed to do in Krishna consciousness. Shravanam Kirtanam, that means hearing about him, singing about him. Vishnu Smaranam, thinking about him. Pada Sevanam, that means worshipping him. Dasyam means serving him. Archanam means performing, a wonderful worship. Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, like Arjuna, or some of the great personalities took the favorable, that means like a friend, favorable mood with the Lord, so that's Sakyam. And then Dasyam I mentioned. Then finally Atma Nivedanam is completely dedicating oneself to the Supreme Lord. So these are all, either you can do all or you can do one, but any of them will actually put us in a perfect state of mind. But unfortunately, not everybody will be able to come to that point of view. Therefore, these very, very various austerities are given. Now, but while doing these processes, one needs to understand there is one particular statement which is made, Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That means this Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya, that means the name and the name. Chintamani means it's like, precious gold or whatever, Chintamani, that's a very, very precious stone. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That means that name, which is like, that's precious, whatever, precious stone or whatever. That and the Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the personal form Vigraha, that and this are non-different. The name, or for that matter, the qualities, the pastimes, the entourage, whatever related to Krishna, everything is actually that having the same potency. So, if you are taking the name of Krishna, you are actually taking the name, you are actually in physical presence of Krishna. So, when we are chanting so many of times, we feel, I'm doing 16 rounds, what is this sitting, wasting my time? But we realize that 16 rounds at that point in time, we are actually sitting and talking to Krishna. Like today, we have almost spent 2 hours, we are all sitting and, taking each other's association. But the same thing happens when you are chanting, you are taking association with Krishna. Even now we are taking association of Krishna. While we are seeing physically all of us, like, I can see, like, Achyuta Prabhu, Kapil Prabhu, Rohit Prabhu, Arya Prabhu, all this we can say. But at the same time, we are also just reading and understanding the words of Krishna. Words of Krishna is none other than the form of Krishna. Murti or his Grantha, the scriptures which has emanated from his lotus mouth, everything is the same. And we are actually in associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that state is something which is completely, in that, we discussed that in earlier, like, this is completely akarma, or will put you in the spiritual platform. That's what we will come to now also. See, then, therefore, this material energy, when we are here, it's not that, we are in an inferior state of, no, we are not in an inferior. It's all how we are able to see it. See, this material energy is also the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you are in your consciousness, if you are able to be actually attached to Krishna in that material position, then you are actually in a spiritual activity. Again, I was saying, you look like doing the same thing, but what you are doing is actually spiritual, not material. Now, there is this example, right? If you have to say, if you have to take any name, like, Mr. John or Mr. Whatever, Kevin or, Mr. Whatever, some name you take, and you keep on chanting for 2 hours or 3 hours, will you be able to do that? No, John, 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 John. After 5 minutes, you will be bored. But if you take this Harinama Sankirtana, there are people who have been chanting for 80 years, 90 years. We have all been doing for how many hours we have been associated with Krishna consciousness. That is only increasing. The taste is only increasing. That, we don't want to stop. Okay, why only? That 16 is only minimum, right? One who is actually very happy, he will not stop with 16. Last week that question was there. We do once, no? That is enough. Why do you have to do so many things? See, if you like something, will you be foolish to say, I will do only once? You like laddu. Will you only eat one time laddu? You will keep on eating, right? Because you like it. Therefore, if you really got a taste, you will do it more and more. Why would you say, no, it's enough if you do it one? That means you don't have taste to do it. You are actually repulsive of that. I don't want it. So I was just saying I will do. But if you really like it, you will just go on like that. So that's the actual position. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So, there is one other statement, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. That means, a highly realized person, he will actually be able to see this material world, every activity in relation to Krishna. You understand that? A person who is very, very highly realized, he will be like connecting everything to Krishna consciousness. Anything we talk, they are able to relate something in relation to Krishna. They are in that plane. And therefore, Yukta Vairagya means whatever you do, why don't you dovetail that in Krishna consciousness? That's what we are actually trying to say, right? Every time I keep impressing on that according to our level. If you cannot take up direct Krishna service, can you use your skill or, whatever you have, your opulence, we were talking about, you have a nice Benz car. So, no, nothing wrong. Yukta Vairagya. You use that Benz car in the service of Krishna somehow or the other. That can transform to a state where we are completely fixed in that ultimate consciousness of understanding Krishna in the purest personal form and not relating to through this Benz car to Krishna. No. You directly relate to Krishna, not okay, the Benz car and then from the Benz car I go to Krishna. That's like Brahmeti, Paramatmeti. But you directly relate to Krishna. But at least if you can't do that through this route, you can do it. But there is also another important aspect we need to cover. Sometimes we say Yukta Vairagya and everything you do, you want to keep on doing nonsense. And then you can quote this verse, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. That means whatever we are doing is actually Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we want to cheat ourselves, right? Or we want to tell others, I am always in Krishna because I know this verse, maybe. I keep saying it. But there's a thing that we need to understand very clearly. We will come to that a little bit point. But the point here is this connecting everything is Krishna. We can look at it in a very practical example. Look at this. See, anything which is material, if you are able to connect that to Krishna, that becomes spiritual. So many times this example Prabhupada gives. This microphone, he is giving a class with a microphone. He says, this microphone metal is basically material. But the minute I am talking Krishna Katha on this mic, this simple same metal, whatever physical properties it has got, it transforms into spiritual. Fine. A mic is a mic. It's simply doing a job of, multiplying the voice or whatever. But that becomes spiritual. Krishna says, Prabhupada says, gives this example many times. So it is very difficult to understand for normal. No, it's all the same. But I will give a practical example. Now you make food, right, at home. Now this food, same whatever atta, rice, whatever you mix. But the same one, when you offer it to Krishna, then everybody take it like this, right? They take it, they put it in their head and then, eat very respectfully. Now what has changed in that food? It's the same rice, the atta, everything is same. But then that food obtains the property of God. That's why he is putting it in the head. Otherwise, why will he put it in his head? He will only put it in his mouth. It's just that food, but it is connected. It became connected to Krishna, and then it becomes in this, like this word, this verse is mentioned. It actually becomes that pure spiritual nature. Therefore, that prasada becomes very important. This is very practical. The mic transformation, you could relate in some form and shape. But this food transformation is very immediate for us to understand. Yes, this connected with Krishna becomes spiritual. That's very important. Okay. Now let me take one. What's time now? 8:20. Okay, we have another 7-8 minutes. I will try to close there. There is one beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2. 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse. Very beautiful verse. Ye anye aravindaksha vimukta maninas tvayi asta bhavat avishuddha buddhayaha aruhya krishnena param padam tataha patanti ado anadrita yasmat angrayaha. Okay, this is a very powerful verse. If you sometimes when you read together, it feels very complicated. But if you read word by word, it's a very simple thing. Ye anye. Ye means that, right? Anye, anye, anyone, like that. Or anye, the others, all others, like that. Ye anye. Aravindaksha, everybody know Aravinda is lotus eye. The one who is having this lotus eye, Krishna. Vimukta maninaha, mukta, one who has actually got liberated, or at least who thinks he is liberated. Vimukta maninaha, one who is considering himself completely liberated, right? Then, vimukta maninaha, twayi means twayi, you, twayi, onto you. Ashtabhavat, speculating in various ways but not knowing or desiring more information of your lotus feet. Ashtabhavat, bhava means you are in a mood. That means you speculate thinking in a different mood. Different moods you are thinking. These are speculative, not actually learnt it in a proper way. These are speculative ways. In various ways, but not knowing or desiring more information of your lotus feet. Avishuddha buddhayaha. This is very important. Avishuddha. That means it is not shuddha. Shuddha means pureness. Avishuddha. Buddhayaha. That consciousness is not pure. That means, now if you, whose intelligence is still not purified and who does not know the goal of life. Now, if you have to read this in a full, this one, someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the lotus feet, Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. That's the first point. That means anyone, O Aravindaksha, without knowing about you, if they think they have arrived salvation, I am going word by word, whatever I read only. Without knowing about you, your lotus feet, but if they think they have arrived salvation, what is their actual position? That is mentioned here. The next line is Aruhya Krishnera Param Padam Tataha. That means, what is the meaning of this word Aruhya? Aruhya, even though achieving, Aruhya, maybe ascending, going up, even though achieving their objective, Aruhya. Krishnena means so much of austerities, with so much of austerities. So many people do, right? So many austerities, so many penances, so many, Monday this Vrata, Tuesday that Vrata, Wednesday this Vrata, so many things they are trying to do. Without knowing about the greatness of your lotus feet, you should always have that in your mind. You can also do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for Krishna, that's fine. But without knowing the greatness of the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus eye Krishna, but if you are doing all these things and achieving that highest level, you achieve. Definitely you are achieving when you are doing these austerities, that's fine. But Krishnena, by undergoing severe austerities, penances and hard labor, Param Padam, the highest position according to their imagination and speculation. Because these fellows think, right, Brahma Jyoti is the highest. Fine, you reached that Brahma Jyoti. That's also nothing belittling. It's very high to reach that Brahma Jyoti. It's very high. You reach there because of your austerity, because of your penance. You do so much difficult labor. Fine. With that, you reach to the Brahma Jyoti. Param Padam, the highest position. Then Tataha, Tata, that means from there. Okay, you reached there. Tata, from that position. Patani, Patita, Patani, Patanti means fall down. That means those who do not understand the original position of Krishna, do not know the greatness of the lotus feet of Krishna, but they have achieved that highest position, whatever they think is the highest position, it could be even up to Brahma Jyoti. They have reached that point, but still they will fall down. Patanti, adau, down into the material existence again. Anadrita, neglecting devotion to Yusmat, your Angraha, lotus feet. So, because they have not worshipped your lotus feet, but thought that Brahman is something else, they will rise. But what happens to them actually? They later fall down. Just like, anything which goes up has to come down, is it not? All our Sputnik or, whatever big these missions we send into the space, right? Ultimately, after a point in time, they have to come down. They can reach higher positions, but someday they have to come back into earth and crash into this thing, because after a point in time, they lose the energy. That may take 10 years, 15 years. After that, it becomes inactive, and then they are all worrying when it will fall in my head. I remember one thing like a Skylab, right? Many times I saw that, everybody is saying that Skylab is going to fall off, and everybody is holding their head and sitting. Even recently, something like that happened. I think on China's satellite, finally it fell off in somewhere in Indian Ocean. But anything which rises high, anyway, it has to fall down. Like this, because you do not know which platform to go and stay there, right? If you have gone to a platform, you stay there. But if you are not knowing what is that platform, you have to come down. You have to come down. There's no other point. You keep flying high. You don't see a platform. There is only Brahma Jyoti there. But after some point in time, you have to come down and fall down here. Prabhupada talks about this. So that's very important. And one more verse we will talk there. Okay, you say, right, that I talked about the platform. Arjuna talks in Bhagavad Gita towards the end, right? What does he say? He says, he after hearing about all what Krishna says, he asks thousands of questions, everything answered. Then he is completely realized. He says, what does he say? He says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Idam. What is that? Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. So, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram. Param Brahma. That means Brahman is correct, but you are Para Brahman. That means you are the Supreme Brahman. And Param Dhama. That Dhama, you have to understand. Param Dhama is the platform. Like we are standing on this earth. This Dhama, this is Dhama. Or, this is the place where we are, in that platform we are standing, Dhama. But where you are actually the ultimate Dhamma. That means you are the ultimate platform. So Arjuna, after realizing all of this, is saying, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. That means you are Pavitram. Pavitram means pure. And you are the ultimate of everything. He's saying that. So like this, I was talking about this, satellites. If they have a place to go up and stand somewhere, sometimes you say, like say you go to the moon. If you are going to be going to the moon, then that particular thing may not fall down into earth because it has got a platform already. But if you don't have a platform, you can go high. But then the fall will be even bigger and bigger and bigger. The higher you go, the fall will be bigger and bigger and bigger. Therefore, you need to get to that platform which is beyond this material conception or beyond this Brahma Jyoti. Beyond that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the person. We saw this example, the fire. The source of that fire is there. From that emanates this heat and light. You should know that. Beyond that Brahma Jyoti, the original energy, the energetic is sitting there. We are looking at the energy and getting overawed. Yes, energy is very good, fantastic, non-different from the Lord, but you still need to know who is the energetic. That is very important. So, we will conclude here. So here this particular verse, it says, one who is actually in that state, so whatever you are kingdom, because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consumption is absolute, that means consummation is absolute, that means and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. That means if you are performing some activity to please the Lord, so the performer, right, the ingredients and the process, everything is actually the same absolute, but everything has one different nature. But at the end of the day, everything is actually for that Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that sense, it is Brahmeti. It's all one. But Prabhupada writes toward the end, right? He writes this beautifully. We can't even say it the way Prabhupada writes or talks. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called jnana or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition, the spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. So this process is there. We have always seen so many times. You put a rod in fire, a metal rod in fire. Over a period of time, it burns. At some point in time, the metal is so red hot, it ceases to be a metal. It also becomes like fire. The same thing. Once we are actually in that consciousness, we actually become completely purified and we become that spirit soul altogether. Of course, the metal, as long as it is in that fire, only it remains fire. The minute you take it down, it again becomes metal. That is the Jiva's position. But the Lord is the original fire. He keeps always blazing. That means he doesn't need any support. But the metal can become fire, but it needs the support. As long as it is connected with the Lord, he is like that. If you go to the spiritual world, you will have a very beautiful effulgent body. You will be like the Lord. You are completely independent. You can be roaming around everything, doing in complete independence, having the complete opulence like the Lord. but that doesn't mean you become Lord. That's the difference. So we will conclude here this thing. So the point here is there are three different stages. So now going next few many verses, we'll talk about how you can still remember Krishna, how you can do some activity if you are not in the plane of direct Krishna consciousness. But the recommendation is you try to at least theoretically come to this direct Krishna consciousness plane and perform Shravanam, Kirtanam, the Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. This process you follow rather than trying to do whatever else is going to come in the next many verses. But if you follow this, then sooner or later, or rather very quickly, we can come to this point of actually becoming, one with the Lord. But that one with the Lord we should not misunderstand as impersonalism. One with the Lord is in association with Him. We can talk today also. Sundar, our Achyuta Prabhu shared, right? Prabhupada is saying you can go to the spiritual world. There you can see the Lord, talk to Him just like how we are talking to each other. So it is that concrete. We can go there, talk to the Lord, play with Him. It's not like, no, you can't see Him with your eyes. No, you can see with Him. You can share your emotion. He can share his emotion. And you can have absolute wonderful, loving devotional service. We talked about this loving devotional service with the Supreme Lord there. So I will close here. If there are any comments and we can take it. I'm sorry we took a little more time today. Even the starting became a little late. I'm sorry for that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, thanks for elaborating. Elaborately. That's very important words. Otherwise, going by ourselves, it was really confusing word. Thanks for elaborating it. Thanks for that.
Yeah, this is like Prabhupada. I don't know. It's very difficult for us to assimilate even after hearing it for 10 times. It's a so thing. But Prabhupada uses the simple words. Half an hour he finishes the class. Right? But it's amazing. I'm just today trying to reproduce what Prabhupada had given, one of the classes. He had given many classes on this. I picked up one of these classes actually. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Good. Two questions actually.
Yes,
so,
yes, Prabhu.
One of the points that you talked about, and very true, food is food. Until it's offered to God, it becomes prasadam.
Yes.
And our something that we felt, I don't know, and that's one of the questions, is that definitely tastier. Even the taste changes, right? So is it our mental state that changes, or is it something that changes? That's one. And the second one is more practical, right? We get up, we do whatever we do, right? And then I sit to work whenever I work, right? 9:30 at 10 o'clock, whatever. So we say, whatever we do, we offer it to God. And whatever you do it with that consciousness. How do you do that? The things that we do for 8 hours or 10 hours, that's the majority. Yeah. Is there a practical way of doing it?
Yes. Okay, nice questions. So the first one, you said, right, when you offer it to God, it tastes nicely. So is it a mental state of mind or is it real? Okay, so when you offer it to the Lord, is it that, it's a mental thing that the Lord is eating? That's the first question which comes in. Is it a mental thing that we are getting some feeling that He is eating, but in reality, how can it be? Can the Lord actually take whatever you have offered? Right? He's sitting there as a vigraha, right? He's just sitting there on the altar. He's sitting there. But so many people there who are just keeping something in front of that dal, and what do you say? How can it can become prasadam? But it is actually, so that's not a mental state. You are actually imagining that, it is. No. It is very clearly given. Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. He says, I accept it. Whatever. This Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, like, leaf or water or what is it? Tad Aham Bhakti Upahritam Asnami. He's saying, I am actually accepting whatever you are giving. How you should give is defining. He's saying, with love and devotion. I am actually accepting. He says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He's not saying I am taking it mentally. He's saying, whatever you are giving, leaf, is defining. That's why we say no animals are given to Krishna. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. This means patram means any leafy vegetables or leafy related items. Pushpam is the flowery things. Phalam is all fruit and other stuff. And then toyam is water. So these things, if you are related things, when you are able to offer, the Lord accepts it. He says if you offer it with bhakti. So when you offered it with bhakti, the understanding is he is also accepted it because he is saying it. I am not saying it. He is giving a promise. He is absolute. When an absolute says, you cannot doubt it. You simply accept it. And now you have given it, he has tasted it. Now who is the absolute? That absolute is very, I keep going back to it because that's a very powerful thing, absolute. So in him, all the taste, all the, the uppu, kara, whatever, everything is there. He is absolute. So that food that you offered, which is not having whatever, but it is still becoming complete. The same example I am taking. He has touched it, that from the complete, this item is touched and this item becomes complete. Now it is no more lacking in any taste. That is a real thing that we have to observe. But some people are not able to perceive this themselves because, see, Krishna is like that. You can't question him. He says, Krishna is not also some very cheap fellow, right? Okay, I don't have to prove myself to anybody, right? If you show some interest, I will prove it to you. I mean, it's mutual, right? If you don't, I will give you reasons to say this is not prasada, right? He will give you more intelligence to refute him. He is not insecure. Oh, if he doesn't accept me as God, what happens to me? He has given away planets after planets free for you. Take it free, enjoy. I have nothing to do with it. Why will he be insecure? So if you have a desire to think, oh, this is God noticed, he says, yes, you are right, 100%. It doesn't. He will give you that kind of a mood to make you think. But in reality, it is actually perfect. So that's why we say prasada, you should honor it. We say, no, prasada, eat it, we never say. Honor prasada. That is Krishna himself. So it's not mood. That is reality. But since we don't perceive it, we sometimes think it is mood. And some people think that is all gas. There is nothing called real prasada flavor or nothing in that. That's the next stage. But those who are sitting on the wall may think, it's in my mental state or whatever. But it is not. For us, it may feel like it. But the real fact is that prasada is actually Krishna. I talked about the name of the Lord is not different from the Lord himself. The food offered to him is not different from Krishna himself. He goes in the form of food and purifies our consciousness. That is why when you take prasada, all your nonsensical, demoniac atheism goes away actually. So many people say, if you go to ISKCON, they will do something to you. They don't do, they simply give prasada. Krishna goes inside and then he removes all our these anarthas from our head and then we are able to become favorable to Krishna's, to actual tattva. Therefore, they think, oh, there's done something. No, it's not like that. So that's the first question. The second one is, how can we work 8 hours or 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours. We work hard. How do you dovetail it to Krishna? So that's a very practical question. All of us in that boat running around thinking, we are doing Krishna consciousness, but majoritarily we are running around trying to somehow fend for ourselves. That may be. But if your consciousness has already started thinking about Krishna, right, then slowly we will be able to dovetail them. Like, for example, and very practically, today I talked about rasoham. This one, that means the water you take, when you drink water, think I am Krishna. See, it's about, it's Krishna consciousness, or, even devotional service means, what does that mean? You are always conscious of the Lord. That's all right. It is not a particular activity is defined exactly like that. One who is actually able to remember the Lord 24/7, he is Krishna consciousness. It doesn't mean to say what you are doing is immaterial. Are you able to be thinking of Krishna? Right? Arjuna, I take the same example. Arjuna was fighting the war. So if he is fighting, it's such a very material thing, right? His objective is to directly go and hit these people and come. That's a very straightforward matter. It's very material. But that material activity, when it was used just to satisfy Krishna, because Arjuna did not want to fight, right? He says, boss, I don't want to fight. I don't want to kill my friends, my brothers. No, I don't want to do it. So it's not for him. Krishna says, boss, you have to do it. because this is my wish. You simply do it if you want. If you don't want, step aside. This will still be done. He tells them. Then Arjuna understands, yes, I will do it for Krishna's pleasure, not for my pleasure. And then he's going, and then he's with vengeance, he's hitting those people. But that vengeance is not material. It is actually spiritual. Like that, we may be engaged in so many activities, but are we able to think of Krishna all the time? So, practical examples are, at least, when every hour we take some water. These days, we always have a bottle. Every 2 minutes, TV, you see so many people drinking. Can you think at that point, that water, when you see Krishna in your mind? Like that, you can say in your office when you are working, can you have a small picture of Krishna? Something which denotes Krishna. As you are working, can you look at that? Can your screensaver have something to do with Krishna? A flute? Something. Sometimes you are in demoniac offices, people don't want you to be seen spiritual, whatever. Okay, you keep some symbol, you can relate that to Krishna. You see that. That's the beginning, this practical thing. You start off like that. And slowly, this interest, and we associate with devotees, do something here and there, engage in some activity. Now, if you see last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you are sitting through 2 hours. Very difficult to sit through. I mean, initially at least. But you have been conscious. That's your sincerity. You are trying to sit for 2 hours. That Krishna sees, oh, Rohit now has some attraction for me. That's great. So he will help in different ways. We will get there. But we have made a start. And this is practical. And as you go, how can I, what resources, what abilities I have? How can I do some portion of, use all of those things in Krishna's service in some form and shape, whatever it is, right? I can, whatever, I am a great orator, then can I do something? I'm a great presenter, can I make, some presentation, whatever in your free time can we do. Slowly as we do, that becomes, I took the example of Arya Prabhu here. He is one of the web specialists for me. He designs our Bhakti Sadan's website and things like that. So he's used this thing. Whatever, he keeps pushing me, Prabhu, what next? I say, Prabhu, wait, I'm busy doing something else, I don't have time. But then, so like that, whatever we can do, it could be, whatever skills that we have. Slowly dedicate some time. It's not that, you will have to be 24 hours like that. No, whatever time you can give that. And you will start seeing the bliss. And slowly Krishna will automatically, sitting inside our heart, he will guide us. That is how I see it, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
From childhood, I had a doubt, sir.
Yes.
Krishna has lot of responsibility. I was thinking like that. He has so much responsibility. Still, he is playing and with music and gopis and all. But I don't have rights to ask about Krishna. Elders, they will shout at me. I cannot ask. Today you raised and that one, that point you raised, I realized it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Krishna is supreme. See, for him, he does this creation, right? It's all, in fact, Bhagavatam, if you go, we are in the 3rd canto today in temple, we are doing the 3rd canto. So how the creation happened. So much labor, right? Krishna has to do to create this universe, nothing. He's lying down, enjoying in slumber. We also read it, right? He's in that slumber. In that slumber, he is creating these universes. He doesn't labor, otherwise he's not God. Right, we always think in relation to us. If I have to do so much difficulty to this, then God also has to do whatever. He may have a little bit more
stressful. You don't have any stressful thing. He's aram se.
And when we are, like today the topic, right? If you are completely spiritualized, you are also aram se. You have nothing to fear, you have nothing to sweat, you have nothing to be anxious about, you are absolute bindas. That's the realized status.
Yes.
We are all going towards that only, actually. Hare Krishna. Good realization, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay. It's a very...
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for more clarity on yoga, yajna, and Brahma Jyoti, Brahman, Samadhi. Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Right. It's a lot, so many things, but I was anxious to actually try to communicate everything. So maybe a little long, but then, yeah. You can, see, these things you have to assimilate, Prabhu. You have to listen many times and then, you'll get it. Sometimes so many things would have gone above head, even for me. But you hear 3-4 times, we get a good hang of it. So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Wonderful shloka Prabhu, and very melodious kirtan, new tune I think. So there was too much in these shlokas, starting from how Krishna, how everything is in Krishna and how he is everywhere, yet he is, he's not in others. How everything is in him and yet he is not in others, but he is everywhere, which is like amazing paradox. And like you said, inconceivable potency of his, and when people get under illusion, they are not able to know. So that's so much in there, but it is amazing, and it was wonderful to hear it today. And the other one is like about the Jyoti thing. People, they strive for Brahma Jyoti and they reach there, yet they fall down later because they did not hold lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
Yes.
So all that endeavor is, had they just endeavored for lotus feet of Lord Krishna, they would have been a much higher and better position eternally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all is wonderful. Thanks, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so it's simple, Prabhu. It's, we complicate spiritual life so much because that's the whole journey, right? People have so many other anarthas. They're not able to accept a simple fact. Here is a Lord. You accept it. It's not like we are just telling for the sake of it. It is there in so many scriptures. It's very clearly defined. So if people are able to take that matter with that, what do you call, with authority, like, when you tell in our office, your boss says, you take it immediately. But if someone else says, you are questioning 1,000 times, like that. But if you are able to accept the authority of the spiritual acharya, then we are completely cool. Immediately we are safe. Otherwise, we keep speculating in our head, the life is gone. That's all. But once we are able to take it, then you straight away go in the lift. You don't have to go in the stairs anyway. That's the point. Good point, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
Thank
you,
Prabhu. Had a little confusion about Achintya Bhedabhed. So today I got it cleared. So it is being one and being different at the same time. That is Achintya Bhedabhed.
At the same time, but it is inconceivable. You cannot understand it. So if I say I understand it, then it is not Achintya Bheda. It's actually inconceivable. We cannot understand it in this, what do you call, in our material state of affairs. We can understand it possibly if we go to the spiritual world. But that's it. It's inconceivably one and same.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. At an young age, if you are able to think this, all glories to your parents, Hare Krishna, and your mentors.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class. I don't know why every time, any lecture I hear of the same shloka, why does it feel that, this is the first time I'm hearing this thing? I've never heard this before. So, that means that, it is like we need to continuously hear every day, and even after reading whole life, it is not enough to understand. So, even though I have never heard a lecture or a shloka, like Prabhupada also gives, 10 lectures of the same shloka, and every lecture you hear, you feel as if you are hearing this concept for the first time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even same shloka you read, the purport after 2 days, you don't feel as if you have read it just 2 days back.
Yeah.
So I think that is the glory, So thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna is unlimited, his devotees are unlimited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Before I was reading this about 4-5 years ago, this
some books like some Diary of the Wimpy Kid and all. So that was like once you read it, you know the story, and it's boring again to read it. But
exactly.
I have read quite a few books again and again. Like I read The Coming Back, and I didn't even realize. So I didn't like make notes of it or something maybe. So I read it once again, and at the end I realized, oh, I had read it before as well.
No, you will read it even when you are 50-year-old, the same Coming Back, right?
Yes.
That is the greatness. We talked about, you remember I talked about Mr. Kevin, John. You will feel bored after 5 minutes of chanting like that. But the Lord's thing, that is eternal. Like you will go to the spiritual world and there also you will read about coming back. It will still be very interesting.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Good observation. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. My apologies again. Today it became almost 8:52. From 6:30 to almost 2.5 hours. Big marathon session.
Pavitram, you mentioned Pavitram, Prabhu.
Yes.
That is the reason it is Pavitram.
Yes.
Again, any times you read, still pure.
Yes.
So that means still we need more purity to realize that.
Yes. That is
That
pure,
is the
but we
reason.
are not. So it takes time to purify ourselves to become like that. This
Yes.
verse is all about everything becomes spiritualized. Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we will close now. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. How are you?